There aren't many things tougher than climbing Mount Everest, and that's because it's not only the world's tallest mountain, it's also one of the most dangerous. Over 200 climbers have lost their lives there. Once you get above about 8,000 meters or 26,000 feet, you enter what is known as the death zone.
In that environment, things can go wrong in all sorts of ways. Even when you're using oxygen, your mental capacities are weakened at those altitudes. And there was an aura of death. And I've never really encountered that. I've been on mountains where people have died, but there was nothing like this.
That's Lincon Hall. He first attempted to climb Mount Everest in the mid-1980s. The route was new and dangerous, but he and his team attempted it without oxygen. It was too rough, so he turned back just a couple of hundred meters from the summit. Other members of the team did summit, but they lost some of their fingers. 20 years later, in 2006, he tried again. This time he made it, and he loved it. But disaster struck on the way down. Fluid built up in Lincoln's skull and put pressure on his brain and spinal cord.
I went crazy. I went delirious. I remember descending the first part of the abseil, and the next thing I knew I was in Queensland, which is obviously a long way from Everest.
At 8,700 meters, you were hallucinating. You were in Queensland, Australia.
Yes. I suddenly realised I had to go down. I went down too quickly and I got a huge fright. Suddenly there was a big sort of dose of adrenaline, and I felt really frightened and I just didn't want to be there. But that was okay, because in the next instance I wasn't there. Where I was actually 10 metres behind me and 2 metres higher up. And I could see the distinctive back of my down suit that I was wearing. You couldn't see that view. You'd have to be out there on a big crane or something.
So you were having an out-of-body experience?
Yes, I was, yes. And then everything just sort of went quiet. But I could still see the mountains in the beautiful sort of sun, the soft colours of the snow in the sun, sort of orange going into pink. And normally when you see that in the mountain, you get really worried because you just want to get out of there because you're going to be out there at night, and that's a very dangerous place to be. And
you still had two Sherpas with you, though, right?
Yes, that's true. But what happens at 8,600 metres is that you've got 30% of the oxygen that you have at sea level. It's like trying to lift someone from there. It's like lifting 3 people.
But did you have oxygen?
No, we'd run out of oxygen.
All of you?
Yeah.
Lincon was hallucinating, and he'd also simply run out of juice. His Sherpa guides were told over the radio by the team leader to leave Lincon behind. The fact was, they thought he was dead. He'd had no vital signs for over 2 hours. The team leader even contacted his wife and told her that Lincon had died on the mountain.
I was no longer breathing. I had no pulse, and one of them poked me in the eye. And
Whoa, hold on, let me just stop you there. You stopped breathing? And you had no pulse?
Well, yes, this is what I've been told.
Lincon, you were dead.
Yeah, well, death happens.
Why am I laughing?
So what I believe happened was that there was a spark of life in me, but at such a deep level that it was not perceivable. For some strange reason, in this case, rather than the spark going out, the flame grew stronger.
Well, what was your first thought when you realized that you had been left for dead?
Well, I wasn't surprised, because it made a lot of sense, really. I thought I'd actually had 3 nights out, not one night, because I remember waking up in 3 different mornings, but obviously it was the same day, but I was taking it as 3 different days, 3 different awakenings.
You didn't feel abandoned at all?
No, I didn't. But you see, the thing is, you have to remember how I also had learnt many years ago that never giving up is always the best option in the mountains, because you've got nothing else to do, and you might be lucky and get down. So that was the attitude I had.
What got you through the night? Because you had no oxygen. It obviously gets a lot colder up there. How did you survive the night?
Well, what happened in the middle of the night there somewhere, these hallucinations gave way to actually the real thing. When I came to, I was sitting cross-legged. My fingers were frozen. No one else was around. I realised that this was where Lincon Hall was going to die. And then directly after that thought was the thought that I could not die. I could not let myself die. I would have to stay alive because I have to get back to my family, because this is the time for me never to give up. I was just trying to get through the night, just trying to stay awake until the morning.
How did you get down the mountain in the end?
They were stunned to find me alive.
This was another team that was coming up the mountain. They'd been told that you were there, but they'd also been told that you were dead.
Yes, that's right. So what happened was, immediately they went into rescue mode, and they didn't even talk about it. They just went straight into that situation. To answer your question is, how did I get down? Well, I had an oxygen bottle, and I had the determination to come back to my family. And that was the hardest day of the whole expedition. I mean, the night was just a totally unbelievable thing, but I was alert enough on the descent to just feel the pain of every step. When I got off the mountain, the lead Sherpa of our expedition said that everybody goes crazy up there. It's just a matter of how crazy they go. And that's because of the shortage of oxygen and the dehydration and just the whole horror of the whole thing.
Have there been any physical effects as a result of your experience?
Yeah, I've lost a whole toe to frostbite. My fingers are half as long as they used to be. There was a bit of brain damage there, but it's something I can manage. I guess the whole recovery has taken probably over 2 years.
So there's no regrets or fears as a result of your experience?
Well, there's no point in regrets, and there's no point in fears. Well, fears actually are useful, but the fears are all over now.
Was it worth it?
Yes, it was worth it. The summit itself was great, but it's the love and the insight and the wonderful nature of humanity when it's on a good run. And that's what this whole journey has been. People who've helped and have shown me what a great world it can be.
Would you do it again?
No, I wouldn't go there, and I wouldn't put my family through it again either. Once is enough. Once is more than enough.
Lincon Hall's book is called Dead Lucky. You can find a link to it on our site, tswi.org, tiswi.org.